we're going to be here for another few minutes because we got to get to the BWI mailbag. We're going to get a quick update on Mike, who we said at the start of the show was driving to a sales call. Turns out he told us he has a Tesla, so he's not driving, so there's a good thing. He also is here with a mailbag question. Do you think that the staff will shy away from playing Allar and Pribula next year in a 2 QB system because of the QB numbers? This is something James Franklin floated at the beginning of the spring practice season. Nate, I want to come to you quickly. Any basketball news first, and then answer Mike's question if you have a thought on it.
Yeah, no basketball, and I don't know. That's a good question. I think I haven't really thought about it. I haven't asked anybody. Right? Like, would you? I don't think he likes 2 quarterback systems anyway. Yeah. I don't think that's.
What do you consider a 2 quarterback system? Like, are we talking the Wildcat becomes a 2 quarterback system, or are we talking alternating drives? Because I think they're very different things.
Yeah, I think the like Tommy Stevens, Will Levis situation won't exist. I would put it that way, right? Like, are you gonna put Beau Pribula on the field just to get him on the field as a tight end, or in some unconventional role? That would surprise me. I don't, Fitz, I'd be curious to know your take, but I don't really see that happening.
I think they would do it, to be honest with you. Like, yeah. I think you like not like as a huge like part of the package, but like to have that in your tool belt. And I know Penn State fans hate it because the way that it went with, I think, Tommy, it started really great and then it didn't. It was really good until it wasn't. Yeah. But I think that they feel that Beau gives them an opportunity to like throw the ball, and this is not a situation where you see Drew come to the sideline. I mean, you see Drew split out wide. Just make them account for something. I think that's what it comes down to, is make them account for Pribula and what you can do. It's kind of like the T formation. Like, once you figure out like the different ways to work around it, it becomes a necessary part of your offense. It's not your every down thing. It's not a big part of what you do from a drive to drive basis, but I think there's a spot for it. And like I said, I know Penn State fans will not like to hear that, but I think that they're very wary of today's college football in the sense that Beau, if he doesn't play, like, I know grew up a Penn State fan, wants to be a Penn State guy and all that kind of stuff, but like, get him some action, get him in there. And that doesn't mean that they're going to go to this thing against Ohio State, against Michigan, but it can be a part of your playbook. You got a 12-game regular season. You can make it work. You can figure out a way to make it work. And, you say 2 quarterback system. To me, that goes back to the sense of playing both of those guys, not an equal amount of time, but a decent amount of time. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have 2 quarterbacks. They want to have 1 quarterback. They want to have maybe a complementary guy that can change some things up for you every once in a while. So I don't see them moving in that direction. But yeah, I think we talk about guys that aren't going to play a ton, but they can carve out a role. Everybody has a role. You make that your role and you excel at it. And I think Beau is a guy that can excel. Again, every time he comes up, people say Penn State staff is just telling us what we want to hear because they want to keep him around from the transfer portal. I think the kid is good. Like, you've heard the stuff. You've talked to people in that program. There's something to this kid that is legitimate. And I'm excited to see what that is, whether that's against Toledo, whether that's against Ohio State. I don't know. It's very much somewhere in between there. So I think it's possible, but not in a 2 quarterback system. They want Drew, or they want one guy to be the starter. I think they want Drew to be the starter in the sense that that's how that makes your program look a lot better. And if he's clearly above the other guy, that's obvious. That's an obvious decision. But yeah, I think that's the way to go for that. I think you can make it work. You have trouble with it, you go away from it. We'll see what happens with Mike Yurcich's thought process there. But I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not trying to figure out the best ways to score points. And I think that's a way that they can score points.
Sorry, I was sitting here drawing up plays for Beau Pribula as an option quarterback. Yeah, I mean, it opens you options. So let's take a couple of situations just randomly that I was thinking about. Sean Clifford struggled times with a rolling pocket, where they would roll the pocket, he would stop and throw. What if, instead of having a rolling pocket, you have a guy that is going on a sweep action that's Beau Pribula? So you hand the ball off, it looks like a sweep play, all of a sudden it's a pass. He's a quarterback that can run. So you've got that option. That's just a free one for Mike Yurcich if he wants it. But yeah, there's different ways you can get the quarterback involved if he has the athleticism and the maturity and the intangibles that Pribula has from everything we've been heard to make good decisions in that moment, because that's one of the keys about Beau Pribula, quick decision making, and he's right a lot. That's that kind of it factor thing. Fitz, I want you to pick the next question because I know that we've got a couple here, and I want this one to come to you. So which one do you want to answer here?
Oh, I don't have that open right now.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see. With new position coaches, which group is under the most pressure to deliver this season, the wide receivers or the defensive tackles? You got a graphic for that one, or are we just going to go?
I did not cut that one. So yeah,
Perfect.
We'll just go with that one.
We got a seamless live show here. It's fantastic. No. So position coaches, who's under the most pressure? I would say wide receivers, just because that's a little bit more under the spotlight. Defensive tackle, again, is not going to be a strength. And like, regardless, if you go pull a guy out of the portal, it's going to be very tough for that group to be, better than it's been in the past, but it can still be okay. I think the level of volatility is higher with receivers in terms of the drops, the things that we've seen in the past, developing a number one receiver. What happens when Dante Cephas get here? I think there's just so many questions there, and that needle can move all over the place. So I think that there's a little bit more pressure. And also, you're breaking in a 5-star quarterback. I think that has something to do with it. Like, you need those guys to support your 5-star quarterback to make your offense go. You've got this window where you think you can be really good. A lot of that's going to depend on the offense. So I would say receiver here, just because I think that can take it to another level. I think the defensive tackles are going to be what they are, but I think that the receivers, if they top out their potential, can be very good. We talked about Keandre Lambert-Smith. I will say I kind of got left out of this conversation earlier, but it was very interesting to me that he mentioned Keandre and Trey Wallace as your two guys right now. And then there seems to be a drop off. Malik McClain, there was high hopes because of the athleticism, because the attitude when he came and all that kind of stuff. Does not seem like he's there, kind of going back to the initial expectations that we had for him, that maybe it takes a little bit longer for him to get into that. And then what happens after that with Amari Evans, with those slot guys in Liam Clifford, Caden Saunders, some of the younger guys. So I think that there's a distinct break there. Of course, Dante Cephas can help you out a lot with that, can join that top tier of receivers almost immediately. But I think that's where the pressure is, because you look at the teams around the country that make the playoff, that win those playoff games. They have elite receivers. Penn State doesn't have elite receivers right now, but can they take that big step up? I think that's possible. So a lot's on Marcus Higgins, because so much goes through those guys. And to be honest with you, we see it so much more. Like, we see it from a play-to-play basis when you're throwing the football. This is just going to be a lot more pressure. We saw the defensive tackles against Michigan. You didn't notice them as much as you would notice mistakes by receivers in other games.
Yeah. Beach Wine Guy, back again. He did not like my idea of using Beau Pribula in a package. He says, don't make Pribula the next Stevens or Levis. Every time he goes in, he's running it because everyone knows in the stadium knows it. 2020, I will say, was very different. That was a very different season. That was a very different offense than what they did.
Single wing, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they're like, we're just going to sledgehammer this way through the rest of the season. We're not going to try and be creative or advance the football other than literally trying to get 3 yards at a time.
But think about this. How much time are we spending talking about this? Like, it's something that's going to come up. Well, how much time is somebody going to have to prepare for this? Like, Beau Pribula, you kind of have the construct of what Drew is in terms of quarterback. And Drew can run too. Like, let's be honest. He can get you the yards that you need, not necessarily going to break off the 60-yarder. But Beau has the dual threat reputation. I know Mike Yurcich played that down last night. But they know that there is the element of that word threat. Like, he is a threat to do things in different levels. And it's harder to defend a quarterback like that. And you need to take more time, and you need to use your film time, your practice time, your things like that to account for that. Because when you have a quarterback like Drew, who you expect to be a statue because of the stereotype of him being 6'5" and having the big arm and everything like that, when you diversify what you have to prepare for, it takes time away from the other guy. And that's where it makes sense to me.